Today at Robert's Guitar Dungeon, I'm going to teach you how to play the arena rock classic Highway to Hell by AC/DC. Okay, this is a late 70s rock classic that actually is, really this is one of AC/DC's easier songs to learn. Angus Young, of course, is very famous for playing a Gibson SG, and I read a story about him a few years back that, the reason why he plays SGs is, obviously he gets a fantastic tone out of them, but also because he's such a he's a little bitty guy, and the lightweight small body fits his tiny frame very, very well, and he actually, because he sweats as much as he does when he's on stage, doing all the jumping around and running around and all that kind of stuff that he does, the sweat that pours out of his body actually shorts out the electronics in his guitars, and he goes through several a year. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and but he's also one of Gibson's biggest endorsers and has been through his entire career. So he is able to get away with that, and they don't seem to mind. Angus's tone, pretty, if you were trying to get an Angus Young tone, put all the stomp boxes and stick all that stuff back on the shelf, or put it in the closet and shut the door, and plug straight into your Marshall Super Lead full stacks, plural. Crank them up, and that's basically how Angus Young gets his sound. I obviously am not in an environment that I'm able to do that, but I'm going to get as close as I can. I am going to play through my Marshall JCM 900 dual reverb on the gain channel. This is actually the first year that the JCM 900s were in production. They were still using EL34 tubes, and so the gain on these is a little bit, not quite as heavy as it is on some of the later models that came with the 5881 tubes. Anyway, regardless, that's beside the point. We ought to get pretty close. So we'll see. This song is actually, most of AC/DC's music is actually tuned in E standard. This song is actually played about a half step down, and I say about because it was achieved most likely, and I'm just guessing in this instance, but probably one of two reasons. Either Angus or Malcolm or somebody just tuned their guitar to itself, and it happened to be, to come out about a half step down and had everybody else follow suit, and that's where it landed. Or, which I believe this is probably the more likely scenario, they probably recorded it in standard, but once it was recorded, they slowed down the recording a little bit, because they didn't like the tempo, which also dropped the tuning down a half step. So I am playing a tuned a half step down, as close to the recording, the original recording anyway, as I can get. And here we go. The reason why this is such an easy song is because for the most part, it's really 3 chords. What we're doing for the most part is A, D, and G. The opening riff really the opening riff really sounds like this. And then, of course, it repeats. What we're doing here is just a simple A power chord, or A open A chord, if you will. We just strum it 3 times. And then, from there, he goes to the D, except he doesn't play your traditional open D chord, which looks like that. Although you can. But what Angus is doing is, rather than playing the high F sharp on the high E string, he's actually opting for the F sharp and the low E instead. So the chord looks like this, and also is in the process he's muting the A string with that same finger. So the chord sounds like this, as opposed to, get more of that bottom end to it. And then it's a G, and then it goes straight to a G. So it goes, and repeat that a couple times. And then back to the A. So the whole sequence is, and then sped up a little bit, it's going to go. So the whole sequence sounds like this. So he plays through that sequence, you know, probably half a dozen times or so, 6 or 8 times. And that part of the song, by the way, every time I played it live with the band, it's just the guitar player and the drums and the vocals. There's no bass going on behind it. The bass doesn't come in until you enter the chorus. The next part is after that. After it goes. Then after that D, then it switches to an E. And then you're gonna hit that 8 times and starting from a palm mute and gradually bringing it back up. And then you're gonna go back to the A. This is gonna be the chorus riff. And again, it's 3 chords, still A, D, and G, but it's a little bit different rhythm and a little bit different order. It just starts at the A. Then it goes to the D, and this time it is the more traditional open D. Then you go to the G, then back to D. And then you go back to the A and start it over. So the whole thing will sound like this. And sped up at full speed, it's going to sound something, the whole thing ought to sound pretty similar to this. Okay, so then we're back to the main riff again. The beginning of the second chorus. That G chord during the verse, by the way that I play it, I don't actually play a full open G, which looks like this. I do play the open G during the chorus, but during the verse, the open G that most people are familiar with, the way that I play that is I take my second finger. Basically, I am playing the whole chord, but I pull my first and third fingers, or first and fourth fingers away from it. So really, I'm using 2 fingers to make it sound like this. And the way that that's achieved, both of those notes are on the 3rd fret. The G on the low E string, and the D on the B string. And then what I do from there is using my second finger that has the G note up here. This finger is also muting the A string right above it. Then of course your D and your G strings are open. And then the same thing down here. My ring finger is also muting the high E string. So really it's if the entire open chord sounds like this with all 6 notes, the version of the chord that I'm playing is 4 notes, so it's leaving 2 notes out. Very similar, but the reason why I play it that way is because when I listen to the song, I hear the accent on the lower notes, lower portion, lower register of that chord, if you will. You know, so what I hear. So, and conversely, when I play the verse and I play the full chord, what I hear the higher notes ringing out. Let me play through those one more time with my vocal mic turned off so you can hear it a little bit more clearly. So hopefully that ought to make sense. Coming out of the second verse, then we start heading into the solo, and what that is, that's just a D chord with a suspended suspended fourth, I believe. That second verse will end. It's going to end on that D, and then. Basically just an open D note, and then add the pinky there on the high E string, and then take it off for the last one. So the whole thing, you know, so that leading into the end of the solo, we'll go. And then from there we begin the solo. All of the solo is basically in A minor, so it's all going to be centered right around there on the 5th fret. And it begins on the G string, you know, a kind of a bluesy shuffle. That's basically the first half of it. What we're doing is on the G string, on the 7th fret, we're bending that note up, and then we're barring the 2 notes on the 5th fret on the B and the high E string. So that's basically the whole pattern. Five of those. Then we go to the two notes on the G string and the B string on the 7th fret, and that's kind of a funky bend. You bend it up a whole step real quick, and then slowly bend it back down and back up again. Or you bend it up and down real quick and then slowly bend it up again, I guess would be a better explanation. And then the same 2 strings, the G and the B string, but on the 5th fret. The next up to the 7th fret on the D string. Then back to the 2 notes on the G and the B at the 7th fret, and then back down to the 5th fret. So basically, it's kind of a triangle between those, and it sounds like this. And then you go to the 5th fret on the D string. The next sequence, next very short sequence, is an open G string and a hammer-on, or I'm sorry, a pull-off rather, on the A string at the 3rd fret. So it's that whole sequence put together. That's what the whole thing sounds like. Okay, so the whole solo up to this point, anyway, should sound something like this. So once you got that down, the next part starts with your ring finger, and you slide on the D string up to the 7th fret. Hit on the 5th fret on the G string. You can take that note, and I always bend it up a whole step. I always pull that one down. It's just what comes natural to me. Because then what you need to do again with your that same finger is bar those 2 high notes on the 5th fret on the E and the B string, and go back. So it'll sound like something like this. And on that, when you hit that note again the second time, you're gonna that's what we call a ghost bend, meaning that when you pick the note, you're picking it in a position where it's already bent, and you're going to bend it back down, or essentially slowly release it. So it's just going to sound something like that. And that's actually a technique that Angus Young seems to use fairly often in a lot of his solos. And then from there, you go back to a very similar riff that was in the first half of the solo, where you play the... And what that riff there is the 2 notes on the 5th fret on the B and the G string, the 7th note on the D string, and you kind of mute that a little bit. Then you play the 2 notes on the 7th fret on the B and the G string, with a note on the 7th fret D string in between. And then you go back to the 5th fret on the B and the G string. And then when you hit that 3rd time, then you're going to bend both of those up. And then you're going to go back to the 7th fret on the D string, and then to the 5th fret on the D string. And that one you're going to slide off. Then you're going to slide back up on the D string to the 7th fret. And then you want to bar all 3 of the high notes on the 5th fret, except this time you don't want to bend any of them, you just need to bar all 3. So the whole thing will sound... And it'll sound just like that. You'll finish up again on the 7th fret on the D string. And then the very last note on the B string, I slide... the very last note on the B string, I slide all the way up to the 10th fret, and I usually just start down here low. Add a little vibrato on that, and then slide back off. So that whole sequence put together will sound... I'll play through the whole solo one time, slow down a little bit so you can see it, and then I'll play through it one more time at full speed. And then from there he goes directly right back into the chorus riff, which is the. And then he plays through the chorus a couple times, and then it ends on a D. Very similar to the way that it did leading into the solo, except he just hits the D chord one time and that's it. Then what he does, he slowly rolls the volume down on his guitar like I just did, and then he slides up to. I always play it on the 12th fret, the 12th and the 15th fret. And what he's doing is a a little flutter, just a little 2-finger tapping riff between the 15th and the 12th fret on the high E string. And you do that while you're rolling your volume knob back up. That's pretty much the whole song. After the little flutter riff there, he hits an A chord, and then you can either hit the same A chord. A lot of times I like to come up to and play that same A power chord on the 5th fret on the low E string so that I can slide off of it to end the song, as opposed to doing it right there, because the open position, because there's not really anywhere to slide off to from there. So. And that's the whole song. All of it. As like I said, there's not really a whole lot to it. It's basically 3 chords. A couple of different variations of the same chord, but the same 3 chords nonetheless. It's easy to learn. It's fun to play. Every band that I've ever been in that's played this song live, this has always been a lot of fun to play. Not just for me and the band, but the audience. This is a very widely recognized song, and especially if you're playing bars, this is a great bar song. Gets a lot of energy going, and bar owners really like it, because when there's more energy, when more energy builds up, the more alcohol they sell. The more alcohol they sell, the more bands get paid, and the more bands get paid, everybody's happy. There's your music industry lesson, economics lesson for the day as well. Not only is it fun to play in bars, from an instructional standpoint, this song is very good is a very good song for beginners and intermediate players to learn, because not only does it help with practicing not only chords, but different versions of the same chord, which is always helpful to know. But it's also kind of a blues-based song, and it's an easy solo if you're just beginning to learn how to play guitar solos. This is a fantastic one to not only help build up strength in your fingers, because there's a lot of bends in it, but also kind of get you familiar with minor scales and some blues riffs and things of that nature. So this is a fantastic song for anybody to learn. I think this is just a great song for any rock or blues guitar player to have in their arsenal. Again, any and all applicable links will be down in the description below. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions at all. I'm happy to help. All of my methods of contact will also be listed down in the description, as well as links to all the gear that I used in this video. Please go check that stuff out as well. And thanks for watching. Angus Young has inspired young guitar players all over the world. Unfortunately, not all of them are able to afford their own instrument. which is why Share the Music needs your help. If you have broken or unwanted instruments laying around at home, please visit Share the Music on their Facebook page and learn how you and your broken or unwanted gear can help inspire and change a young person.